Exposed, this amazing routine test unveils hidden stroke risks for 1 in 4 seniors overnight. Tom Davis stood proudly in the quaint community hall of Maplewood, a twinkle of mischief in his eye as he regaled a group of teenagers with tales from his youth as a World War II veteran. With each laugh and gasp, he lifted their spirits, embodying the very essence of resilience. Yet beneath that spirited facade, a slow march of time took its toll. At 88, he had begun to feel the weight of his years, and his stubborn independence loomed like a shadow, prompting concern from his devoted children, Katie and Jake. On this particular breezy autumn morning, as leaves crunched underfoot and the aroma of pumpkin spice wafted through the air, Katie and Jake stumbled upon an article that caught their breath. Exposed, this amazing routine test unveils hidden stroke risks for 1 in 4 seniors overnight. The words danced off the page, igniting a flicker of hope within them. They had long sensed a shift in Tom, the way he sluggishly navigated stairs or winced after golf. A simple test could shed light on the hidden dangers overshadowing their father. Katie, a practical nurse whose compassion flowed from her veins like lifeblood, was the first to suggest it. Maybe, just maybe, this could help him. Jake, a dedicated high school teacher with a heart of gold, felt a swell of anxiety mixed with excitement as they planned the delicate conversation with their father. He could already picture Tom's furrowed brow, that proud stance unwilling to bend beneath the weight of love. As they approached Tom that evening, their hearts raced. The cozy kitchen, filled with the scent of freshly baked cookies, felt electric. They broke the news gently, like pulling off a Band-Aid. And yet, the result was exactly as they feared. Tom's laughter faded, replaced by a stormy silence, a mix of indignation wrapped in refusal. "I'm not going to play that game," he barked, the strength of his spirit undiminished by the undeniable truth of his vulnerability. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of Tom's pride crushed the air in the house. Katie's frustration mixed with compassion, while Jake's protective instincts bubbled beneath the surface. Every heartfelt plea felt like hitting a brick wall. Their father, the patriarch who had built a life around ideals of hard work and self-sufficiency, couldn't fathom accepting support. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of Tom's pride crushed the air in the house. Katie's frustration mixed with compassion, while Jake's protective instincts bubbled beneath the surface. Every heartfelt plea felt like hitting a brick wall. Their father, the patriarch who had built a life around ideals of hard work and self-sufficiency, couldn't fathom accepting support. But then, without warning, fate intervened. Tom collapsed in his living room, the color draining from his face as the room spun around him. Panic surged as Katie dialed 911. The sounds of sirens echoed like a haunting melody. As he lay in the cold hospital bed, surrounded by the sterile scent of antiseptic, Tom peered into the eyes of his children, each look a painful plea wrapped in unspoken love. Stripped of his pride, vulnerability cracked open a vault of memories. In the hushed tones of the sterile room, they shared laughter, tears, dreams, and fears, each word carrying the weight of a lifetime. The room thickened with their unyielding need for connection, and a question hung in the air like a fragile thread. How will courage balance the scales between pride and love? The answer remained elusive, a whisper barely heard in the storm of uncertainty. What would Tom choose? Would he cling to his independence, or let love pull him into the embrace of family? As the shadows flickered on the wall, the family's future swayed precariously over a cliff of decisions yet to be made. Tom lay in that stark hospital room, feeling the weight of life pressing down on him. The beep of machines surrounded him, a metronome measuring his heartbeat against the backdrop of uncertainty. He hadn't thought it would come to this, being dependent on those he raised. The threads of his independence began to fray at the edges, unraveling with every soft look from Katie and Jake. Katie held his hand, her small fingers enveloped in his weathered, calloused palm. "Dad, I know this is hard," she whispered, her voice a mixture of tenderness and urgency. "But you need to trust us. We just want what's best for you." Tom turned his gaze towards the ceiling, fighting the tears that prickled at the corners of his eyes. He had always been the rock for everyone, the one who faced battles head-on. But now, laying here, he felt as fragile as the medical equipment around him. Jake shifted in his chair, his once calm demeanor now a storm of worry. "We're not trying to control you, Dad. We just want you to be safe." The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that felt like it could crush the air between them. Tom couldn't bring himself to respond. The shame of needing help cut deeper than any wound he had faced in battle. He had fought for others, now he felt like he was losing the fight for himself. Days turned into a blur of tests and consultations. The doctor's crisp words echoed in Tom's mind, a steady drumbeat of diagnostics. High blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, signs of a body that wasn't quite ready to let go, yet not willing to comply with its owner. It was during one of those sterile mornings, while staring out the window at the people bustling by, that something shifted within him. A couple walked hand in hand, laughter spilling out like sunlight. It sparked a flicker of a memory. Tom and his late wife, dancing under the stars, both of them unaware that time would eventually steal those moments. Why was he so afraid of surrendering even a little? Wasn't love a form of surrender too? It seeped in slowly, a quiet resolve taking shape. He didn't want to hold his children back any longer. He didn't want to live in the past. It was time to rise against the stubborn pride that had once been his greatest strength. After a long silence, he mustered his voice, husky and raw. "Katie, Jake." Their heads snapped up, eyes bright with hope. Maybe we can talk about that test." The corners of their lips turned upwards, not from triumph, but from the shared weight that began to lift. Katie squeezed his hand tighter. "We can schedule it right away, Dad." Tom managed a smile, one that felt foreign but warm. For the first time in a long while, he felt a tiny flicker of possibility. Acceptance. The battle wasn't over, but perhaps he wouldn't have to face it alone. As the doctor entered, clipboard in hand, ready to go over the next steps, the air shifted with charged anticipation. Tom's heart raced, not from fear, but from hope, a feeling he hadn't allowed himself in ages. What lay ahead was still wrapped in uncertainty, but one thing became clear: he had a choice. Each choice would stitch a new patch into the fabric of his life. And in the midst of this new daunting journey ahead, another question loomed larger than before. How would love reshape his identity as he moved forward? The thought took hold just as the doctor began to speak, and Tom realized the hardest battle was just beginning. Tom's heart thudded steadily in his chest as he took in the doctor's words. The room felt smaller, walls pressing closer as the announcement of the routine test, a stroke risk assessment, settled. He glanced at Katie and Jake, their eyes reflecting a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Some invisible shackle that had held him back began to loosen within. "Okay, let's do it," he said, surprising even himself with the firmness of his voice. The doctor nodded, jotting down notes, but there was a flicker of warmth in his expression. He recognized the shift. He had seen it in others before, a small flame igniting a spirit long held captive. Once the doctor left, an almost electric silence filled the room, pregnant with possibilities. Tom shifted slightly, the bed creaking beneath him. "What's next?" he asked, eager to move forward. Katie leaned in, enthusiasm lighting up her features as she rattled off the steps. "We'll schedule the test, and then we'll work from there. You can get back to your daily routines little by little." Her words gave him hope. Terrifying hope, but valid hope. He hadn't given much thought about soaring routines in years. His world had become limited to flickering lights of monitors and the scent of antiseptic. But hearing her speak made him want to reclaim pieces of his life. Not just for him, but for them. Jake, who had been quietly optimistic, suddenly spoke up. "Dad, remember the hiking trails we used to do? The ones by Pine Lake?" His eyes sparkled with a mix of nostalgia and excitement. "Once you're up and about, we'll hit those trails again." "I don't know," Tom hesitated. The thought of exhaustively climbing hills, the ache of muscles he hadn't used in ages. But then he saw Jake's expression, filled with unyielding belief. "Hey, if you struggle, we'll take it easy," Jake chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. That laughter, Tom realized, was contagious. It trilled across the dim room, spilling warmth into corners that felt cold too long. A smile crept on Tom's face, testing the feel of it. There was a long pathway ahead, but maybe, just maybe, a little journey wouldn't hurt. After the laughter faded, a siren somewhere in the distance echoed through the open window. It reminded him of the unpredictability in life, of moments that could change everything. He remembered realizing how much he missed being part of the world outside this sterile prison. "Maybe hiking isn't a bad idea after all," he said slowly, watching Jake beam at him. Their discussion shifted from hiking trails to family dinners, memories of home-cooked meals, laughter over past plates, and arguments over favorite board games. Each memory was a thread weaving the fabric of their lives, tightly knit despite the fraying edges. As they shared stories, something shifted deeper within Tom. He could feel the gears shifting in his mind, creating a clearer picture of what lay ahead. They weren't just stories of the past, they were blueprints for the future, guiding him back toward what was real. At the heart of it all was a simmering desire to connect, to chase after life once more instead of waiting for it to pass by. His notion of independence was morphing, taking on new shapes. It was not about solitude, but rather an interlacing of lives, a tapestry among loved ones. And so, among the laughter and the dreams of trails yet to be walked, a familiar question bubbled back to the surface. As Tom settled into the warmth of their shared hopes, he wondered how much of himself he still needed to unearth to embrace what could be. Could he bridge the gap between vulnerability and strength, and reconnect with the world he once knew? With his heartbeat steady and the air crackling with promise, he felt the stirrings of a new chapter unfolding. Tom lay back against the thin hospital pillow, feasting on the warmth of his family's conversation. The laughter, the dream of hiking trails, and the prospect of family dinners made time stretch like a warm embrace. It was all so familiar yet elusive, like a faded photo, memories softened by time. He glanced at Katie as she fiddled with her phone, mapping out their next steps. "I can take a couple of days off work," she suggested. "I just want you home." Home. The word hit Tom like a wave, flooding him with a sense of comfort he had almost forgotten. The sterile smell of the hospital receded, replaced by the faint aroma of pine trees and the faintest hint of cinnamon from the baked goods at the local cafe. What if I can't get back to that? He wondered aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. The worry outlined his face as he met Katie's gaze. What if I'm not me anymore? Katie's eyes softened. You will find your way back, Tom. It's not about who you were, but who you're becoming. We're all in this together. Besides, you're already showing us a glimpse of the old you. Jake piped in, his youthful exuberance washing over the moment. Remember when you tried to beat me at chess and ended up letting me win? I'd say you're still you, just with a little more strategy involved. Tom chuckled lightly, his mind flitting back to that raining afternoon spent hunched over a wooden table crammed with snacks and laughter. Those have been the moments that defined them, intermingling silliness with warmth. Yet there was a nagging doubt, creeping like shadows at twilight. Could he really climb those trails again? Could he abandon the fear that loomed large like a dark cloud over every ambition? Before he could voice those thoughts, a new doctor walked in, interrupting the moment with the soft click of her heels against the linoleum. She wore a gentle smile, but Tom could see the professionalism in her posture. "Good afternoon, Mr. Henderson," she said, her voice smooth like a gentle caress. "I wanted to discuss the next step, the results of your stroke risk assessment." Tom's heart did a little dance. He could feel the room compressing as tension took center stage. He glanced at Katie and Jake, their hopeful faces mirroring his own uncertainty. "Okay," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Let's hear them." The doctor shuffled her papers, giving them a brief glance as she began. "The assessment highlights a few risk factors we'd like to address. But there is good news. While you do have some elevated risks, we now have a clear path to manage them effectively." Relief washed over him, but it came with a caveat. "What do I have to change?" Tom pressed, seeking clarity, not wanting to walk unprepared. "A healthier diet, physical activity, and regular checkups. It sounds daunting, but it's manageable." The doctor's eyes sparkled with encouragement, as though she were handing him a treasure map. As they discussed diet plans and exercise regimens, Tom felt a seed blossom within him, a flicker of hope amid the uncertainty. "So, if I take this seriously, I'll improve my chances?" His voice held a newfound determination. "Absolutely," the doctor replied. "But it takes commitment from you and support from your family." She smiled at Katie and Jake. "And that's where they come in." Tom turned to see them exchanging glances, sparkles of unyielding support illuminating their expressions. In that moment, his heart surged with love, shooting tendrils of warmth through the clouds of doubt. Katie squeezed his hand, while Jake nodded vigorously. "You don't have to do this alone, Dad." Tom took a deep breath, searching for the words. "Okay, let's do this. I want to feel the wind on my face when we go hiking again." The doctor smiled, writing down notes, emphasizing routines and follow-up appointments. As she spoke, Tom felt an unshakable resolve form inside him. Yet, as the doctor finished her explanation, a question lingered at the edge of his mind. What sacrifices would he have to make? And would those changes fuel the fight inside him or stifle his will? The world outside was calling to him, tempting him with whispers of possibility. Would he answer that call or cling to the safety of his past? As Tom sat there, surrounded by the warm glow of hope and the flickering shadows of fears yet unspoken, he knew one thing for sure. The road ahead was not one he could walk alone. What price would he pay to rediscover himself? Tom stared blankly at the wall, the doctor's words a swirl of encouragement and caution. Just as he processed the gravity of it all, a soft knock pulled him from his thoughts. The door creaked open, revealing a familiar face. His sister, Leela, with her signature braids bouncing as she entered, a warm smile lighting up the room. "Surprise!" she exclaimed, holding up a small bouquet of daisies. "I couldn't let you go through this without a little sunshine." Tom felt his heart swell. Leela's unwavering energy was a familiar anchor in stormy seas. He had missed her visits, the way she filled a room with laughter and light. "You shouldn't have," he replied, smiling weakly as she approached and placed the daisies in a vase on his bedside table. Too late for that. She flopped onto the chair beside him, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Besides, I've been dying to hear how my big brother is doing. The doc's giving you all the good stuff?" Tom chuckled at her enthusiasm. "That depends on your definition of good," he said, a hint of unease creeping back in. "I may have to change my entire lifestyle." "We can do it together," Leela said, leaning in closer. "What's the plan? Give me a solo mission and I'll help you get through this like true champions." Tom raised an eyebrow, a smile tugging at his lips. "A true champion? You'll have to put down the donuts then." "Hey!" Leela laughed, feigning offense. "I'll go healthy if you do too. How about we turn this into a competition? Who can eat better, get more active? I'll be your personal cheerleader." The idea sparked something inside Tom. Competitiveness had always fueled him, pushing him to strive for more. "Okay, you're on," he said, excitement gleaming in his eyes. "But you better bring your A-game, sis." They laughed together, the weight of the day's news momentarily lifting. For Tom, it felt like a bridge to a future he was just beginning to envision. Later, as the conversation flowed toward shared memories and future plans, Leela pulled out her phone and started scrolling through photos. "Look at this one," she said, showing him a picture of their last hiking trip, the three of them grinning ear to ear, the sun glowing behind them like a halo. Tom felt a pull in his chest, an ache to relive that moment, to climb those mountains again. "I want this again," he said softly, staring at the image. "I want to feel what that is like, to be back out there." "Then let's make it happen," she said confidently. "We'll start small, a walk, then maybe another hike. When you're ready, of course." "Yeah, small steps, right?" Tom echoed, feeling a new determination brewing inside him. As the conversation shifted to lighthearted banter, a more serious note crept through. "What if I fail?" he asked, the question spilling out before he could catch it. "You won't," Leela said sharply, her tone now serious. "You know why? Because I'm here, and so is Katie and Jake. We're not letting you go through this alone." Tom looked at her, sincerity etched in her features. "I guess I just need to trust the process," he murmured. A flicker of fear danced at the edge of his heart, and he couldn't shake it off entirely. Suddenly, a nurse entered, reminding him of his next therapy session. "Time to get moving, Mr. Henderson," she said with a bright smile, tapping her clipboard with a pen. With a half smile, Tom stood, feeling a mix of dread and excitement. He looked back at Leela, who gave him a thumbs up, her cheerleading spirit unwavering. "Let's see what you've got, big brother," she winked. He took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. As he moved toward the door, the thought echoed in his mind. It wasn't just about the path ahead, it was about those who were walking it with him. Just as he stepped through the doorway, a thought hit him. What if this was more than just about health? What if rediscovering himself meant reclaiming his lost connections, the laughter, the people? Would he have the courage to face the path before him, and the strength to lean on those who loved him? Tom stepped into the therapy room, the bright white walls somehow both sterile and welcoming. As he made his way toward the equipment, the rhythmic beep of machines felt like an odd soundtrack to his nervous energy. He could feel his heart speed up, and he realized that this moment mattered more than he'd initially thought. "All right, Mr. Henderson," the therapist greeted him. "Ready to show me what you've got?" Tom nodded, swallowing hard. He was ready, but the shadow of doubt lurked. He thought of Leela's unwavering support. He found strength in that. "Let's do this," he replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The session began with simple exercises. They started with stretches and movements he hadn't done in what felt like ages. At first, everything felt awkward. But as he pushed through, a small flicker ignited within him. He had done this before, climbing mountains and conquering trails. He just needed to reconnect with that part of himself. "Great job on the stretches," the therapist encouraged. "Now let's move to some balance exercises." Tom focused intently, trying to keep himself steady on one foot. The shaking started almost immediately, and a bead of sweat formed on his brow. "I can't believe how hard this is," he muttered, struggling to hold his position. "Breathe," the therapist instructed. "You're doing far better than you think. It's all about progress." Just as he was about to lose his balance, he caught a glimpse of Leela peeking through the door. She was mouthing, "You got this!" and it was like a lifeline thrown into stormy seas. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself, focusing on Leela's encouraging presence. With each passing moment, he found a rhythm. The session continued, and for the first time, he felt the weight of his diagnosis lift ever so slightly. By the end, Tom was sweaty but exhilarated. "I can't believe I did that," he said, a rush of excitement radiating through him. "See?" the therapist grinned. "Small steps lead to big changes. You faced your fears head-on today." As Tom gathered himself to leave, he felt a surge of confidence. He was ready to reclaim his life, one small adventure at a time. And he felt a spark of hope that maybe things would turn out okay. In the hallway, he found Leela waiting for him, her eyes bright with anticipation. "How did it go?" she asked, looking him directly in the eye. "I think I surprised myself," he said, a grin breaking across his face. "But more importantly, I think I'm ready to push myself a little more." "Then let's plan that walk today," she replied eagerly. "We can choose a place with a view. You liked those, right?" Tom nodded, recalling that breathtaking vista from their hike. The warm sun and the vast openness made the world seem bigger, more alive. "Yeah, I'd like that." They started toward the parking lot, Leela chatty as ever, and Tom felt a warmth growing in his chest. But just as they reached Leela's car, his phone buzzed in his pocket. A message flashing on the screen sent a jolt through him. It was from Katie, and the short text sent his mind racing. "We need to talk. It's important." His stomach dropped, and he shared the news with Leela. "What do you think she needs to tell me?" he asked, anxiety creeping in again. "I don't know, but it must be serious. Just take a deep breath. You can handle this, Tom. Together," Leela assured him, her optimism a familiar comfort, but it only nagged at his nerves. As they both got into the car, the thought loomed large in Tom's mind. What could be so urgent, and would he be ready for whatever news awaited him? In that moment, he realized not only was he on a path to healing physically, this journey seemed to be leading him to face deeper truths, things he'd buried or overlooked. Would he be strong enough to confront it all? Tom sat in the passenger seat, staring blankly at the dashboard. His mind was racing, each thought colliding with the next as he replayed Katie's message over and over. "We need to talk. It's important. Why now? After everything?" Leela's voice pulled him back to the moment. "Hey, how about we focus on the walk first? We can tackle everything else later." There was sincerity in her eyes, but the worry etched across her face told him she felt the weight of his anxiety too. "Yeah, you're right," he replied, but the knot in his stomach twisted tighter. The sun was shining, and the trees swayed gently in the breeze, yet all he could think about was that message. The drive to the park was filled with small talk. Leela pointed out the blooming flowers, and Tom tried to join in, laughing at her jokes, but his heart wasn't in it. Each passing moment felt like a countdown to the inevitable conversation with Katie. They finally arrived at the park, a sprawling area with winding trails and a lake that shimmered in the sunlight. As they stepped out of the car, Tom inhaled deeply, trying to ground himself in the present. "This is nice," he said, watching as families played nearby, kids giggling and couples walking hand in hand. Ordinary moments that felt just out of reach. "Let's head to that overlook," Leela suggested, pointing toward a steep trail that led up to a hill. "I know you love the view from up there." With a nod, Tom set off, the rhythmic sound of hiking boots crunching on gravel almost soothing. As they climbed, he felt the familiar burn in his legs, the way his heart pumped with exertion. Leela walked beside him, matching her pace to his, her presence a steady comfort. "I'm proud of you, she said after a while. "You've made so much progress in such a short time." Tom smiled weakly. "Thanks, but I still feel like I'm just treading water." "Sometimes just staying afloat is enough," she replied. "You're taking steps, Tom. That matters." They reached the top, and Tom's breath caught as he took in the view. It was stunning. The world rolled out before him like a vast canvas painted in greens and blues. He felt weightless for a moment. The air— "Okay, let's sit," Lila said, sinking onto a rock. Tom joined her, the warmth of the sun beaming down on them. But as he sat, his phone buzzed again in his pocket, a jarring reminder of his unresolved issues. He grimaced, feeling Lila's gaze on him. "Maybe I should just check it, get it over with." "Yeah, if you want. Just remember, I'm here, whatever it is." With shaking fingers, he pulled out the phone and hesitated, then unlocked it. The screen lit up. Another message from Katie. "When can we meet?" His heart sank. "I can't do this," he whispered, feeling the urge to throw the phone away. Lila placed a comforting hand on his back. "You don't have to face it alone," she urged gently. He clenched his jaw, processing the weight of those words. Could he really handle this? What if things changed forever? The question hovered in the air as silence stretched between them. Taking a deep breath, he finally replied, "I'll talk to her today." The resolve felt bittersweet. He was walking toward the unknown again, yet it also felt like a step toward freedom. As they both took in the beauty around them, a thought flashed in Tom's mind. Was he ready to uncover the layers of truth that could change everything? The two shared a quiet moment, but beneath the surface, something shifted, a storm brewing on the horizon of their lives. What awaited him on the other side of that conversation? Would it be clarity or confusion? He couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Tom stood at the overlook, the vast sky pressing down on him, the world below vibrant yet distant. Lila's hand was warm against his back, her presence dissolving some of the tension coiling in his chest. But all he could see were the words flickering on his phone screen. "When can we meet?" They were like a siren, calling him back to the chaos he thought he was escaping. He turned to Lila, needing to share his burden. What if she wants to explain everything? The uncertainties clawed at him, intertwining fear and curiosity. Lila shifted slightly, her eyes searching his. Maybe she just wants closure, or maybe she needs something from you. He shook his head, frustration boiling inside him. Closure? What good is that if it unravels everything I've tried to put together? He ran his fingers through his hair, pacing back and forth along the rocky surface. Each step felt heavy, as if he was dragging the weight of the past along. "Tom, look, Lila finally said, her tone steady but firm. You can't control how she feels or what she wants, but you can control how you respond. She stood up, facing him directly, an intensity in her gaze. You owe it to yourself to hear her out, even if it's hard. He paused, the wind whipping his hair around. She had a point, yet the thought of facing Katie again felt like staring into an abyss, ready to swallow him whole. Days and nights after their breakup had blurred together, and in that haze he found solace in the simplicity of his new routine. Was he prepared to step back into the messy web of emotions that had once ensnared him? "What if she pulls me back in?" he whispered, the thought barely escaping his lips. "Then you'll know where you stand. It'll be easier to make sure you keep walking forward." Her voice softened, and she stepped closer, her sincerity palpable. "You've come so far, Tom. You don't have to backtrack. But I understand how—" "I know," he interrupted, the volume rising without his consent. He took a breath, steadying himself. "It's just scary, Lila." The honesty of his words hung in the air between them, sharp and raw. He felt vulnerable, exposed, as if he had let a crack deepen in his facade. But her eyes remained kind, and for the first time he sensed that he wasn't just a project for her. He was a person, broken, yet whole in his own way, trying to piece together who he wanted to be. As they sat back down on the rock, he glanced at the sky, a blanket of clouds weaving through the blue. "What if I find out things are worse than I thought? What if—" he paused, then swallowed. "What if she hasn't changed at all?" Lila's brow furrowed. "Then it's a lesson learned, right? You're stronger now. You can walk away if you need to. Sometimes that's the best choice." He mulled her words over, contemplating the possibility of walking away feeling empowered instead of defeated. And yet, deep down, a flicker of hope warmed his heart. Maybe this was an opportunity. Closure or not, he could redefine his story. "It is a conversation," he finally said, resolving to embrace whatever it brought. "I'll face her." "But what now?" Lila inquired, tilting her head, concern lacing her words. Tom looked out over the winding trails below, the people moving effortlessly through their lives. "Now, we walk." As they descended the trail, his thoughts spun like autumn leaves in a breeze. Each step felt lighter than the last, but still the tension rested in his gut, a restless knot. What if Katie had changed? What if she hadn't? He trusted Lila, but could he trust himself? The trees began to thin, revealing the park's open heart. Somewhere out there was the conversation that could change everything. But in the quiet hum of uncertainty, he felt a flicker of determination ignite within him. As they walked into the bustling afternoon, a question lingered in the air. What would he discover in that moment, standing face to face with the past he thought he had left behind? The sun dipped lower in the sky as Tom and Lila made their way down the path. People were scattered around, families laughing and playing, couples strolling hand in hand. The vibrant sounds of life surrounded them, a stark contrast to the tempest of emotions swirling within Tom. Each step felt like he was dancing between his past and present. "Promise me something," Lila said, breaking the comfortable silence. She paused and turned to face him, her eyes steady and earnest. "Whatever happens with Katie, stay honest with yourself. Don't bury what you feel just to make it easier." He nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. What did honesty really mean in this tangled mess? His heart was still a fortress, guarded against past betrayals and fears. But what if being honest was the key to dismantling those walls? They reached the park's open area, a sea of green grass stretching out before them. Tom glanced at the benches scattered around, and a familiar knot twisted in his stomach, tightening with every thought of Katie. He could almost see her face, Hear her laughter, remember the good times mixed with heartache. It was quieter here, just the rustling leaves and distant laughter mixed with the chirping birds overhead. He focused inward, trying to set aside the chaos for a moment. "Leela," he started, but the words stalled in his throat. "Hey, whatever you need," she assured him softly, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "I'm scared. It feels like all the progress I've made could slip away in an instant. If I slip back into old patterns, what if I lose that strength I've built?" The vulnerability of those thoughts stole his confidence, leaving him feeling exposed. Leela drew closer. "You've come so far. Remember, strength isn't just about moving forward. It's also about knowing when to stand up for yourself, to say enough is enough." A breeze brushed through, and Tom inhaled deeply, as if pulling in her words. He could feel the sunlight warming his skin, grounding him, reminding him of how far he'd come in embracing a life without the weight of Katie. Still, the prospect of facing her, the one person who had been both his refuge and his storm, felt daunting. The moment hung between them, heavy yet electric. As if they both recognized it, the inevitable encounter looming just beyond this tranquil park. "I need a minute," he said suddenly, pulling away. He needed space, a moment to gather his thoughts before that inevitable confrontation. He walked a few paces, intentionally distancing himself from Leela, his thoughts spiraling as he paced. "Tom," she called, concern etched on her face. He turned, and the momentary panic in her voice stopped him cold. "What if I find out I'm still in love with her?" The question was raw and unfiltered, spilling out into the open like fresh ink on a blank page. Leela's expression softened. "Love isn't something you choose, it's how you act on it that defines you. Just promise to protect yourself, always." He felt that weight again, a crushing pressure on his chest, but beneath it pulsed a heartbeat of determination. "You're right. If depth, the honesty is what I need, then I'll face whatever truth awaits me, even if it hurts." Lila smiled, a mixture of pride and reassurance. "Then let's get it over with." They began walking again, their steps synchronized. As they approached the glimmering plaza ahead, a fountain splashing rhythmically, Tom's heart hammered against his ribs. Katie was somewhere close, and with each passing moment he felt himself being pulled back into that old orbit. When they finally spotted her by the fountain, laughter dancing in her eyes as she spoke to someone nearby, Tom's breath caught in his throat. The certainty of facing her sent a wave of memories crashing through him, each one a reminder of the joys and sorrows they'd shared. "Are you ready?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper, and Tom could feel the tightness return to his gut. Taking a deep breath, he forged ahead, every step feeling monumental. But just before he reached her, uncertainty rooted him to the ground. What would happen next? Would he find solace or more chaos? Standing there, with Lila by his side, a new question emerged. Could he really define his story this time, or would the past entangle him once again? Tom stood before the fountain, water cascading like a veil between him and the world he used to know. He could hear Lila's encouragement fading into the background, every heartbeat echoing in his ears. There she was, Katie, laughing effortlessly with a friend, her presence a bittersweet reminder of once was. He felt the urge to turn and run. Yet, as her laughter reached his ears, it ignited a flame of resolve within him. This was the moment. No more pretending that the past could magically disappear. No more wallowing in uncertainty. It was time to face the truth, one way or another. "Tom," Lila whispered, nudging him gently. He swallowed hard, forcing his feet to move. With each step he felt the weight of fear transform into a pulse of determination. They had fought too hard for this moment, and he wouldn't back down now. Katie turned, her expression shifting from surprise to something softer, curiosity wrapped in a hint of longing. "Tom," she said, stepping closer. Her friend stepped back, sensing the tension in the air. It was just them now, the years between them pressing like the warmth of the sunshine. "Hey," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. It was a simple greeting, but it carried the weight of all the unsaid words that had lingered since their last encounter. "Is this a good time to talk?" Her eyes were wide, searching his face for an answer. He nodded, feeling a rush of emotions wash over him. "Yeah, I think it is." Lila took a subtle step back, giving them space. Tom inhaled deeply, summoning courage like an old friend. "I got your message. It's important, right? We need to clear the air." Katie's brow furrowed, and he could see the whirlwind of thoughts racing behind her eyes. "I've missed you, Tom. Things got complicated, but I want to talk, to explain." He wanted to scream, to ask what had changed, to understand why it felt like a distance still hung between them despite her sincerity. Instead, he found his voice, steady and filled with urgency. "I need you to be honest. Can we do that?" A flicker of vulnerability passed across her face before a resolute expression took its place. "Absolutely. I want that too." They found a bench facing the fountain, the sound of water serving as a backdrop to their unresolved history. Tom sat down, his heart racing as if preparing for a race he had never trained for. "After we broke up, everything felt hollow," she began, her voice laced with regret. "I thought I had lost everything I cared about. I realized how much you meant to me, but I didn't show that when I had the chance." Tom felt the walls of his guarded heart start to fracture. "Why didn't you say anything sooner? I waited for answers, and I thought—" He trailed off, the pain raw and real. "I thought I had to figure it out without you," she admitted, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I was scared of losing my independence, but I realize now that I was just lonely. I missed us." A rush of emotions threatened to overwhelm him. "Katie, I've been rebuilding my life since we ended things, learning how to allow other people in again." "I know," she said softly, leaning closer. "I can see the change in you. I just wish I had recognized it before." In that moment, the distance that had defined their relationship began to shrink. A shared understanding blossomed between them, but lingering shadows of doubt still danced around Tom's heart. "What do we do now?" he asked, the weight of the question heavy in the air. "We take it one step at a time," Katie replied, and he could see sincerity etched into her expression. "I want to be in your life, but I understand that it'll take time, trust to build back. I truly want to support you, Tom." "I want that too," he confessed, his heart racing with the possibility of what could be. "But can we promise to be honest about what we feel, whatever that may be?" Gratitude washed over her features, and he could see a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. "Absolutely. Honesty is the only way forward." They sat in silence for a moment, a new understanding settling comfortably in the space between them. The fountain splashed, and children's laughter danced on the breeze, a reminder that life was still flowing beautifully despite the turbulence. Finally breaking the silence, Tom grasped her hand, tentatively at first. "I don't want to rush anything, but I want you to know that my door is open. If we're both willing to walk together in this, I want to see where it goes." Katie's eyes lit up, glowing with the warmth of possibility. "I'd like that, more than anything." From a distance, Leela watched, her heart swelling with pride. Tom found strength in knowing he had taken a crucial step forward, not just for his own journey, but for the connections that mattered most. As they left the park hand in hand, Tom felt lighter, more like himself once again. He didn't know where this path would lead them, but he felt ready to embrace the adventure ahead, fortified by love, honesty, and the unwavering support of his family. Redemption was possible. He had only to take it one step at a time. And now he was finally free to begin the journey that lay ahead. If you resonated with Tom's story of transformation and the recovery of love and self, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support genuinely helps. And comment below to share your thoughts and feelings about this emotional ending. Finally, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and remind themselves that love takes courage. This is the moment to show your support and connect with us. Don't wait, not even one more second.